What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony. I'm with the American Home Team here at eXp Realty in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. Guys, in today's video, we're going to be going over the question of, is right now a good time to buy a home in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region? And I might say some things that maybe you don't expect to come from a real estate agent. There's always, not always, but typically there is one line of thinking coming from the professionals who are selling you the product. And so I might debunk that a little bit. And so what we're going to go over are some of the market trends and how to deal with them. We're going to go over the long-term outlook of buying a house here in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. And then also your personal needs, as those play a heavy part in your decision to buy here and kind of what you can get and what you need. So that being said, let's hop right into the video, guys. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. As much as I love making these videos for you on all things Rochester and Finger Lakes living, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So the number in that email, it's popping up on the bottom of your screen. I'm the guy that answers those text, emails, and phone calls. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out. We've been getting a huge influx of inquiries recently, and it seems like now is the time that people want to be moving to the region here, and probably to try and avoid the winter time. So be patient with me. I'm trying to respond to all the inquiries. I'm going to get to you, I promise. But without further ado, guys, let's hop right into it. So what is the market doing right now, guys? So the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, they're a little bit different whether you're in Rochester or the Finger Lakes, and that's due to just population and sheer volume of buyers, right? So let's speak on Rochester. So Rochester is inarguably one of the most competitive markets in the United States, not just in New York, but in the United States. Irondequoit, I believe, has been number 2 and number 1 in consecutive years for the most competitive market in the United States, as well as the best place for first-time home buyers. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that statistic, primarily because of how competitive it is. I don't think you can kind of correlate the two. And so just broadly speaking, what's generally happening here in Rochester is any given listing, almost regardless of price point, is receiving on average about 5 to probably about 15 offers. And so that being said, you know, you need to be offering pretty high in order to prevail. And what I mean by that is understanding that list price is not going to be what you're going to buy the house at. And the days of coming in under asking price, a majority of the time, are long gone. And the reason I say this, and I've spoke to a lot of people, I have my qualms with this as far as what our industry is doing in real estate, like what our area is doing rather. My issues are that a listing agent and a seller are no longer listing the house at market value. They're not even listing slightly below market value. They are listing so far below market value that they're going to get 100 people through the house, and they're trying to get 15, 20, 25, 40 offers on these houses. And in my opinion, it's almost like bait and switch marketing, where the listing agent knows full well, based on comparable sales, that a house is going to sell at, call it $300,000, right? But instead they listed at $175,000 because they want, I think there's much more sinister motivations, being that those agents just want to be able to market that they sold a house for X amount over asking price with however many offers and this many showings and blah, blah, blah. They want those numbers to be high, right? So I sold $125,000 over asking price with 45 offers on the house and 132 showings set up, private showings set up. They want to be able to boast that on their social media so that it seems like they're doing a good job, right? In my opinion, I'd be asking, are you uneducated on the market and what the market's doing? Or are you engaging in bait and switch and being deceptive? Because there's no reason why this house should be selling $125K over asking price. Why not ask a little bit closer to what it's going to sell at? You're going to get the same price regardless. just ask a different price. And so that's kind of my issue with this. And so in order to kind of curb that, or I guess protect our buyers against this large, fluctuation of prices that I guess you technically could buy a house at, we're doing what are called escalation clauses. And if I can, I'm going to put an example of an escalation clause as written by the New York State Bar, so you guys can see exactly what it looks like. But in layman's terms, it basically says we're going to start our offer at $250,000. We're going to escalate above and beyond the next highest offer by $5,500 up to a max purchase price of $305,000, right? So that means if somebody offers $275,000, then your offer would then get bumped up to $280,500. Now, the caveat to this that kind of protects you as a buyer is that listing agent and that seller has to provide a competitive offer, or a competing offer rather. So they can't just come out and say like, oh, I saw you escalated up to 305, we want to sell it to you at 305, with no documentation or proof of another offer. They could do that in a counter offer. Sure, they can, but then you also have the right to counter back. But if there is a competing offer and you escalate above them, then they have to provide that competing offer. And so what that means is that your first offer on a house is going to be your highest and best. And that's why we do that escalation. It allows you to be as competitive as possible, but it allows you to also get the house for the lowest price. So that's kind of how we do that. Now, the other thing that I think that is a big point for me to emphasize is home inspections. Home inspections are something I know that I want my family in a house that has been inspected, it's been looked over by a professional that is not me, and I want somebody who is skilled in that profession to go in and look at the house, right? Now, what's really unfortunate about how competitive this market is that a majority of offers that are being accepted right now don't have inspection contingencies attached to them. Meaning, these buyers who are buying the houses, they're getting their offers accepted, they're not asking for home inspections to be done. So most of my buyers are, calling and they're like, hey, we really want to buy a house, but we're not comfortable with it not being inspected. So what we did was we got in contact with our favorite inspector. He does an amazing job. He's mold remediation specialist. He's built houses. He does it all, right? And we said, hey, assuming or with all intention that we're going to be reasonable with this, right? Will you come out on showings basically and do inspections for us? And he said, oh, by all means, I think people should get inspections. So how we're doing this is when you go to see a house, if you like that house upon the first sight of it, we're going to schedule a second showing of that house, and we're going to bring the inspector along with us. And we're just going to do a simple showing, like an hour-long showing with the inspector. And that way we can get his eyes on the property. He can tell you everything that's wrong with it or not wrong with it. And it can give you that peace of mind that the house has been looked through by a skilled and professional inspector. And, the peace of mind is there, that it's been done and that you're putting yourself or your family in a healthy, safe, sanitary property, something that's going to withhold your investment. It's going to, or withstand your investment rather, right? It's not going to put you and your family at risk or your money at risk. So that's why we do that. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know really any other agents who are doing that right now. And so I know that our clients have felt appreciative of that. It's helped them a lot because now they can go in with that peace of mind that it's been done, and they can offer non-contingent and be as competitive as they possibly can in this crazy, wild market here in the Rochester region. And all of this is applying as well to the Finger Lakes region too. So, the waiving inspections is something that I really disagree with personally. It's a personal thing for me. I don't agree with waiving the inspections. So when sellers and listing agents started saying, hey, we're not accepting offers with inspections, we started to say, how can we protect our buyers in this case, right? And so that's we adapted to that. We're bringing our inspectors along, and it's been extremely beneficial and advantageous to our buyers, because now they can actually get under contract on a house and they can have that inspection done. Or if they have that inspection done and something wild comes up, right, the inspector sees something that's crazy, now they can just choose not to offer on the house and not waste anyone's time. So that's an added benefit as well. Plus, it's a little bit cheaper than a full-blown 4-hour inspection, but you get the same benefit, because whether it's a 4-hour inspection or a 1-hour inspection, you still can only see so much. An inspector isn't allowed to open up the walls, right? You can't knock down drywall. You can't pull up roof shingles. You can't, do whatever. Any place that is visible is what he's allowed to inspect, right? So, regardless if it's a 4-hour or a 1-hour inspection, you're getting mostly the same benefit. So that being said, it's almost a no-brainer. Be non-contingent and get that peace of mind of having the inspection done. And so on top of all of this, a big question that a lot of people are asking is, how quickly are houses selling in the Rochester region? That's kind of a loaded question, primarily because, if houses didn't have if listings didn't have delayed negotiations, then they would be selling in probably an hour after being listed. But instead, in this region, we're doing delayed negotiations. So that basically says, hey, we're going to list this house on, call it Monday the 1st, and on Monday the 7th, we're going to review all offers. So that means on Monday the 7th at noon, or whenever the time is that they set, all offers are going to be due. They're going to gather up all the offers that were submitted, and they're going to choose one. Everybody gets an answer that day, whether you got the house or you didn't get the house. And then you move on from there. So again, that's going to be your highest and best. You get one shot at it. Now, we always have the conversations of, hey, if we're super close, please just let us know. Let's see if we can work some things or whatever, right? There's always those conversations kind of behind the scenes, but you normally only get one shot at it. So to answer that question of how long our house is sitting on the market, it's about 5 to 7 days normally, but it would be an hour if we didn't have delayed negotiations. So, it's a little bit different than most other markets. Most other markets are like, hey, we're going to receive a few offers in. Once we get 3 offers in, then we'll do highest and best at that point. Ask everyone for the highest and best, and then, we'll choose one on a certain day type thing. So instead, we just give that date up front, say everybody needs to offer by this day, and we're good to go, right? So yeah, 5 to 7 days. So if you are somebody who needs to fly in to see a house, or, you really like a house virtually, I go and see it. You call me, hey, Anthony, can you go see this house? I don't want to, waste my time and money on a flight to get there. If I don't like it virtually, can you go see it, right? So I'll go see it. I'll do a FaceTime showing for you guys. And, I'll do my little inspection based off my limited knowledge. I say limited knowledge. I know quite a bit. I'd say more than a lot of other professionals in this industry. However, I'm not an inspector. I'm not a contractor. I'm not any of that, right? So based off my limited knowledge, I will go through and I will do that on FaceTime or Zoom call or whatever, so you can see it too. If you really like it and we deem that it checks out and that everything's good, then we will schedule a second showing so that you can fly in from wherever you're coming from and you can come see it yourself. And that will always be my recommendation is, please, if you can, do not offer on a house or buy a house sight unseen to you, right? Me seeing it, that's one thing, whatever, but I'm still not you, right? You can get in and you can feel a whole different vibe in the house versus how I experience it. So it's kind of a scary thing for me representing you if you haven't stepped foot in that house and offer on that house. Now, hey, it's your prerogative. If you want to do that, go ahead and do that. I'm not going to stop you, but my recommendation would be if you can make the trip out here to look at a house or a couple houses, we can make it the time well worth it. Then I would say do it. Do it. It's for your own benefit, right? It'll be good for you, I think. And it'll be healthy for your decision making and your sanity when you go through this process. So, and we have had people who have had just a lot of money and they didn't really care. They said, whatever's wrong with the house, we'll deal with it. We'll throw the money at it and we're good, right? So they maybe saw it sight unseen type thing, which is fine, cool. But that, the reality is that's not most people. Most people want to be able to step foot in the house before they actually buy it. So it's nice that we have delayed negotiations, because as long as we can get in early in the delayed negotiations, like the first day or two, then we can schedule that second showing and schedule for you to fly in or drive in. And that would work out really well. So long-term outlook, guys, let's talk about that. So what I've said on this channel a lot, and my brother says it too now that he's down in North Carolina and whatnot, this area down here, or I should say up here for most people in the Rochester region, I say that we're trying to catch up to the rest of the country. So whereas the rest of the country, the median price point of homes, somewhere around $450 or something like that, right? They're high. It's a high number, almost $500,000. The Rochester and Finger Lakes region, our median price point is somewhere around $230 to $275, depending on where you are. So we're well below what the rest of the country is doing. And that's an important point to touch on, because when you see all these numbers being thrown out, right? X amount of 100K over asking price or whatever the case is. Well, earlier I mentioned that it's a pricing strategy, not much of a strategy, but it's a pricing issue that the listing agents have. You also have to look at the fact that we're still chasing the rest of the country. And so you're not going to be underwater. All the houses are appraising out mostly at value. So meaning they have other comparables that they compare to that are putting them at the value you're buying it at, which means the house is worth it. And in fact, most people are basically getting instant equity on their house aside from their down payment. And so, that being said, you can own a house for 2 years out here and sell it for potentially a $85,000 net profit in your pocket walking away with, which in my opinion, that's a pretty significant amount. And people are doing it all the time. So, the long-term outlook looks good, even though we are so competitive. In the short term, it looks like, well, holy crap, this kind of sucks. This market sucks. It's exhausting. Buyer fatigue's a real thing. And we're paying so much over asking price or whatever the case is. There is huge upside to buying in this region. Your investment is protected, and, you're going to be able to make money assuming you keep the house in the same condition or better condition by the time you want to list your house. So, that being said, you really can't go wrong, even if you are in a quote unquote bidding war, right? It's really hard to overpay in this market. I will say that, unless you're a cash buyer where you don't have an appraisal and you beat everybody out and we don't really know how much you beat them out by. That's kind of a scenario where maybe you could be overpaying. But if there's a mortgage and the lender's appraiser is appraising it at value, then that's how you know you got the house at a good price. You're not overpaying for it because you don't have to pay an appraisal gap. So, which also brings me to another point is, a lot of people right now, specifically if they have, roughly 20% down, they're offering what's called appraisal gap coverage. So that means if the appraiser goes out to the property and they appraise it at a value that is less than the value you bought the house for. So hypothetically, you bought a house, purchase price was $300K. They appraised the house at $275. That means that there's a $25,000 gap there that somebody has to come up with. Now, either you come out of pocket and you pay that $25,000 in your closing costs, or the seller reduces the purchase price to $275, or there's a no deal. Those are really the three options. And so what a lot of buyers right now are doing, they're saying, hey, we're escalating up to $300,000. And in the event that there is a low appraisal, we're going to cover that gap. And you can say, I'll either cover the gap in its entirety. We'll cover the gap up to $10,000 in difference. We'll cover the gap $5,000, whatever that number is for you. Most people are offering something, and it just makes them a little bit more competitive. Now, that's a tough conversation to have, because it's like, well, you're paying the difference in an appraisal that is telling you your house isn't worth what you're buying it for. And that's kind of how the conversation goes. So that's a tough conversation to have, but most people are doing it right now. And unfortunately, that's the truth. So, these are just kind of the hard things we got to come to terms with in this market right now. And, I touched on the long-term outlook. I don't see this changing anytime soon, unfortunately. So, that being said, you need to ask yourself, hey, when we're asking the question of, is now a good time to buy in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, there's not a simple answer. It's taking all these things into account as well as your personal needs. Do you have to move here? Number one, right? Is your job getting relocated and you have to move here? The other thing is, do you want to move here, and then why? We do have a lower cost of living, but housing is very competitive. So you got to balance these things. And so the other thing is, what kind of rush are you in? What's your timeline? Do you need to move now? Because if we need to move now, then hey, maybe we need to be a bit more competitive and a bit more aggressive on our offers if you need to move now. Or we can find you a short-term rental, which is my recommendation. Find a short-term rental until we can find you a house that you can afford and is good for you. The other personal aspects I want to touch on is it just the right time for you? Do you have cash in the bank, right? For your earnest money deposit, down payment, and closing costs, right? And then a reserve so that you're not house broke after that. And, in addition to that, are we looking at the taxes? I can pin in the comments, I'll try and pin a couple websites so you can look at the taxes. Really, it's just whatever county. So Monroe County real property is what you can Google, or Ontario County real property. And you can type in addresses and figure out what the taxes are going to be. Now, keep in mind, once you update the price by buying a house, the taxes will follow that. Generally speaking, in about a year or so after you buy the house, your taxes will reflect your new purchase price. So, but it's a very personal question to you. Is it the right time for you? If it's not, don't let anybody coerce you into moving here. Don't let anybody, force this on you, because it's a personal situation. It's your finances. So that being said, if you absolutely have to move here and you're not comfortable buying quite yet, then rent. We have plenty of rentals that are, mildly affordable that we can put you in that, will allow you time to go look at houses and make a rational decision that you feel good about and that you feel good putting your family in. So I hope this helps, guys. Just remember, all of it, like I just said, it's all personal. Things are very competitive here, but no matter your situation, it's possible too. So I don't want to say all of this to scare you. I just want to say all of this to set your expectations so that you know coming in exactly what you're up against. It's hard. There's a lot of buyer fatigue going on. It's very competitive, but it's still possible. A lot of people are getting very good homes within affordability, and it's working out really well for them. So that being said, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And again, that information on the bottom of your screen, I'm the guy that answers those texts, emails, and phone calls. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out. And until the next video, guys, bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.